In this video, we are going to be talking about grounding or earthing. Although there are a lot of health benefits to grounding, this is actually a very important practice to add to your spiritual toolbox, especially if you are going through a spiritual awakening. My name is Catherine. I'm an energy healer, spiritual coach, and nurse practitioner. If you need personalized coaching or an energy healing from yours truly, then you can go to my website at catherineglassman.com, or you can email me at hello@catherineglassman.com. So what is grounding or earthing? Grounding is the practice of going outside and physically touching the earth. And usually it involves walking around on grass, either barefoot or maybe even just sitting next to a tree for a little while. And what research has shown is that by making physical contact with the earth, especially through your feet, you actually take up the free electrons that the earth is emitting through its electromagnetic field. You take up those free electrons and they help stabilize any unstable molecules that your body has in it, otherwise known as free radicals. Having an accumulation of free radicals within your body can eventually damage DNA, and it causes all sorts of, health concerns, primarily inflammation. And inflammation is the root cause of the majority of chronic illnesses. But what does this mean on a spiritual level? Well, spiritually speaking, we are energetic beings. And our energy changes from moment to moment. And even though we have energy within our body, but we also have an energetic field. Everything emits an electromagnetic field, including the human body. But in the spiritual community, we refer to this field as the aura. And when you go out into the world and you interact with other people or you experience some sort of event, that energy gets taken into your aura. So when you have a conversation with someone and you either will feel drained or you might feel energized, it is likely because your aura is taking in the energy that this other person is emitting through their auric field. And so although it's not necessarily a physical thing that you're experiencing, it is an energetic thing that you're experiencing. And so if you leave a negative conversation and you go home and you just find that you're a little off, grounding will make you feel better. And so when I channeled grounding, what I saw, the visual that I got is when you go out and you step on the earth with your bare feet, it's like you have all of these really active, energetic, molecules, and your energy is all chaotic. And the earth's energy is stable, and it almost looks like a salt and water gradient. So because I'm a nurse, this visual was already placed into my brain. So I think it just was brought back to the forefront of my mind when I was channeling this information. And so basically in nursing school, they teach us about salt and normal saline and hypertonic solutions versus isotonic solutions and things like that. Okay. So, we know that water follows salt. Okay, because if one area is saltier than another, the salt wants to just create an equilibrium and make everything equal. Okay, this is how the energy of the earth and your body work. Basically, the energy comes up from the earth and gets taken up by the unstable energy in your body, and it just creates a neutrality. That's what I saw in meditation, okay? And for me, this actually makes a lot of sense because that's exactly how I feel when I get grounded. It's funny. But of course, when I'm consciously grounding, it is more because my energy is off and not necessarily because my physical body is off. Although I probably should start doing that I think maybe if I'm not feeling very well, I think it would actually make a lot of sense to just go get energy from the earth to make my body feel better. And you would think that I would just practice that and know that as a nurse practitioner, but I'm not perfect. But for sure, if I come home from work and it was a very chaotic day or something slightly traumatic happened or I had a very heated conversation with someone or something, then I will immediately feel the benefits of grounding. Grounding is an extremely important practice when it comes to spiritual hygiene. It's very similar to using sage to get rid of bad energy, except the energy doesn't necessarily have to be bad per se within your own aura. It's just more chaotic. And so basically, what happens is if we, you know, meditate or maybe go on vacation or go to a spa, right? We get very neutralized and we feel calm and serene, and that is the energy that we're in. Then we go to work, right? Or we interact with some unfavorable family members or something like that, okay? Then our energy starts to shift and it starts to just become a little different. And okay, not a big deal. We just keep going, okay? And then the next day comes and then we go back to work and then we have another conversation or something irritable happens or something. And then that energy continues to change and change and change. And then eventually it gets to a point where the energy is so chaotic and so unstable that it starts to actually seep into our physical body and starts to make physical changes. This will start to look like increased cortisol levels, increased heart rate, maybe anxiety. And eventually, if this is not taken care of on a regular basis, it will lead to inflammation and chronic disease. And as a nurse practitioner, one of my most common questions to my patients is if you're stressed. Like, have you been stressed lately? And it's usually met with like a chuckle, like, ha, of course I've been stressed, right? And I always have to tell patients that 95% of chronic illnesses are caused from stress. And we know through research that people who are more stressed don't live as long as people who have less or no stress. But sometimes it's not even necessarily the stress, it's just the fact that you're not grounding yourself enough. This is something that needs to be done on a regular basis. So, how exactly do we get grounded? The best way to ground is to go outside and walk on the ground with your bare feet. And you don't necessarily have to walk around barefoot. You can just go lay a blanket and just sit there for a little while. You just want to come in contact with the earth. I personally find that if I put my bare feet to grass, all it takes literally is 5 minutes and I feel like a completely different person. Now, of course, it depends on how much I need to be grounded in the moment. I think recently I worked 3 days in a row and, that time of the month was coming and then Mercury is in retrograde. And there was just a whole lot of things that were happening that were just kind of throwing me off. And so I was feeling very, I was feeling ungrounded. Okay. I was feeling very chaotic, very, just like my mind was racing into a million different thoughts. And so going outside and putting my bare feet to the ground for 5 minutes made a huge difference. But of course, it made a huge difference because of how much I needed to be grounded. Now, of course, if you are already fairly grounded, then the difference isn't going to feel that drastic. But in those moments for me, it is a very big difference. Now, if you don't have easy access to a patch of grass or a patch of earth, then you can always purchase a grounding mat. I actually have one from earthing.com and it plugs right into a wall outlet. And the outlet that is active is the ground outlet. Now, I will say that the caveat with this is that the the mat, since it's attached to an outlet, there is a chance of an exposure to dirty electricity. Okay, dirty electricity is basically the unwanted, uncontrolled energy that's coming from outlets or laptops or TVs or anything that has like an energy source, Wi-Fi. There was a time in my life where I started to get really concerned about EMFs. I literally, when I put a laptop on my lap, I can feel the radiation coming from it. It takes about maybe 10 minutes for me to feel like a radiation burn. And so I had to buy like a special mat to put on my lap before I put the laptop on my lap. And after feeling that, I ended up going down this huge rabbit hole about EMFs and dirty electricity and all the things. So I have found that there are some people out there that have researched the amount of dirty electricity that can come from grounding mats. So that is just one thing that I want you to be aware of. But if that is something that is concerning to you, you can always buy the grounding rod separately. And I think it's like $29 to buy the rod, and it comes with a really long wire. So what you'll do is you'll put that rod into the ground and just put the wire in through a window and then attach your mat to that instead. That is the recommended method. But I will say that I myself do not have a grounding rod. I would like one, but I also have access to grass, so I don't worry about it too much. However, when I do use a grounding mat, even with the outlet, it still helps me feel grounded. So I just want to put it out there that it still helps me. Just keep in mind that if you are sensitive to energy, then it's going to feel very intense initially. I actually purchased a grounding, like body length mat to go on the bed. And the first night I slept on it, I could not sleep, and my entire back just felt like it was buzzing for like 20 minutes after getting off of it. So apparently that is something that you get used to. I did initially feel it with the small mat that I purchased, and that did end up going away, but there was just no way that I could sleep like that, so I ended up returning it. But I will say that I actually do feel this as well when I walk around barefoot on the grass. It's more subtle than the mat, but you can definitely feel like the energy coming up through your feet. Now, another way to get grounded, and this is something that I channeled, so if it resonates, great. If it doesn't, that's okay too. And it actually didn't make sense initially, but is to get sunlight, specifically like sunbathing. So actually sitting out in the sun and with the intention of like just getting sunlight into your body. Now, this made sense on an anecdotal level because anytime I ever sunbathe, I actually feel very grounded when I'm done. I feel very neutral and calm, and it just feels very therapeutic. But it didn't really make sense for that to be a grounding practice, scientifically speaking, because the sun emits radiation, which then creates free radicals within the body. And grounding or stepping onto the earth actually helps eliminate those free radicals. So then when I looked up if sunlight can be grounding, it said no, because of the free radicals. But then I remembered that when you go out into the sunlight, your body actually produces vitamin D. And what is vitamin D? An antioxidant, thus neutralizing the free radicals. Now, of course, your body can only produce vitamin D if you're not wearing sunblock. Sunblock will actually block out the good radiation rays that help you produce vitamin D. So, of course, be careful. There's a lot of controversy when it comes to wearing sunblock and skin cancer. I believe everyone should do what they feel is right for their body. I believe that you should make intuitive decisions when it comes to your own health care. I personally don't wear a lot of sunblock on my body. I'll wear it on my face just so I can prevent wrinkles, right? And it'll be a mineral sunscreen. But the rest of my body, I don't wear any sunblock. And I really just try to make it a practice to expose myself to sunlight within the summer for like 15 to 20 minutes a day and then slowly increase it, because the more melanin you produce, the more of a protective layer you develop that protects you from skin cancer. And vitamin D is what also protects you from cancer in general, because people who have a lower vitamin D level are more at risk to develop cancer. But you can't produce vitamin D if you wear sunblock. So just keep that in mind. Oh, and by the way, tanning beds do not count. Tanning beds only emit, from what I understand, I could be wrong, but they only emit UVA rays, which are not only cancer causing, but they do not help you produce vitamin D. So just keep that in mind. I am not an expert on sun tanning or tanning beds or anything, so I could be wrong, but that's just from what I understand. Another way to get grounded is by wearing crystals or holding rocks. Now, depending on the crystal will depend on where on the grounding spectrum that particular crystal is. The majority of the darker crystals, like black tourmaline, black obsidian, hematite, tiger's eye, those are all grounding crystals. And so it's beneficial to wear them as a necklace or some piece of jewelry. I am actually wearing black obsidian right now. Oh, I'm not sure what that one is. Anyway, but I often will wear grounding crystals to work, or I'll just have them in my pocket and just take them out and just hold them. Now, there are other crystals that can potentially kind of send you into the other direction. For me personally, selenite actually makes me feel very clear, but very airy. And for sure, moldavite will just be very galactic and I will not feel very grounded at all, just even 2 minutes of wearing moldavite. So just keep that in mind. But when I was meditating on this information, I thought it was actually very cute that they suggested just rocks in general. So even if you don't have like a cool crystal or a crystal collection, you can literally just go outside and grab a rock and just hold it. And this makes perfect sense because it's literally a piece of the earth. So I don't see how you can go wrong. And when I saw this information through meditation, it reminded me of a physician that I used to work with when I first started my nursing career in the pediatric ER. This physician was brilliant, but he always carried a rock with him. And it was just a small, like regular rock that he picked out outside. And he always liked the smooth ones. And I would just see him walking around the hallways and like holding his rock. And then if I ever saw him and he saw me looking at him with his rock, he would take the rock and be like, "Do you want to hold my rock?" It's like, "No, thank you, Dr. O, but thanks anyway." So anyway, clearly he knew something that I didn't. That was before my awakening, so he obviously knew what he was doing. Another way to get grounded is to listen to natural sounds, like the sound of rain or birds chirping or just the wind rustling through the leaves. I think this is more because it is an auditory sense that triggers this visual of being outside in nature. Which brings me to my next way of grounding, which is to go out in nature. So you don't necessarily have to put your physical like skin onto the earth. But if you're able to just get yourself out into like hiking or camping, that is very grounding. I remember one of the first times I ever realized how beneficial grounding was to me was when I was living in Nevada in the city and I went camping one day. And, my life was very hectic and very stressful, but when the stress just kind of piles on, it almost becomes just this normal way of being that you don't even pay attention to. You're just on autopilot, just trying to get through the day. And so we took some time to go camping for a weekend. And as soon as I got outside, I felt so calm and it was just so serene. I ended up taking like a 3-hour nap outside. And when I woke up, I felt so calm. And then that's when I knew that I really needed to get grounded more often. And I felt really bad for myself for being in that state so often for so long. And it made me a little worried. Like, I could maybe get myself to be really sick if I just keep doing that and don't ground myself. So if you can't necessarily go camping or get out into nature and go for a hike, what you can do is just listen to soundscapes so that it reminds you of being out in nature. Another way to get grounded fairly quickly and just wherever you are is to just take maybe a couple of minutes to close your eyes and to meditate and visualize yourself growing these giant roots as if you're a tree and rooting these roots deep into the ground. And when I usually do that, I'll also imagine the earth's energy coming up through my roots and neutralizing the rest of my energy in my body. This is perfect for when I don't have crystals or I can't listen to soundscapes and I'm at work and maybe I'm just a little stressed out and I don't necessarily even have to close my eyes, but I just take a moment and just imagine myself growing roots into the ground and I just sit there and I'm just present and I just take up the energy from the earth. That is extremely helpful. I do want to make a point that you can also prevent yourself from feeling ungrounded by watching what you do to yourself and to your body. For example, if you know that eating sugar is going to make you feel ungrounded, then maybe reduce the amount of sugar that you eat, okay? I might not be talking to anybody except for myself when I say that, okay? The reason why I'm wearing these crystals is because I had a lunch earlier and it's that time of the month, okay? I crave chocolate and I had some chocolate chips. I didn't think it'd be that big of a deal, but wow, did I feel a huge sugar high from those chocolate chips. And I felt very ungrounded afterwards. So maybe the reason why that happened right before I decided to shoot this video about grounding is probably to remind anyone else out there that needs to hear it that sugar will make you feel ungrounded. So don't be like me. Do as I say, not as I do, I guess. But another thing to think about would be like alcohol, drugs, smoking cigarettes, just any toxins that you are introducing to the body. Caffeine is a big one. And then, of course, watching the types of energy, conversations, or content that you are taking into yourself. A very good way to get ungrounded very easily and quickly is by waking up from a full 8 hours and, of night's rest and then turning your phone on and flipping through social media. That's a great way to get ungrounded just immediately after all the hard work that your body just did. Another good way to get ungrounded is to watch the news because there is just nothing that is grounding at all when you turn on the news. So I don't know about you, but I have been feeling very ungrounded lately. I'm going to go outside right now. It just rained, so I think a combination of the rain and my bare feet on the grass is definitely going to help me feel grounded. So I'm going to go do that right now. I really hope that this video helps someone out there. If it does, let me know in the comments. But I love you guys. I hope you liked the video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Consider subscribing, and I will see you next time. Bye.